William Blake is the third of 6 children of the Soho hosier. He lived and worked in London all his life. In 1772, he was apprenticed by printmaker James Basire, who taught him his intellect and artistic education. After 3 years of drawing murals in the Westminster Abbey, he became interested with history and medieval art. In 1782, he married Catherine Boucher, a woman who he spent many years with since he was a child. He experimented with combining poetry and images in a printing process he invented in 1789. Among the amazing works produced were The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, Visions of the Daughters of Albion, Jerusalem, and the Songs of Innocence and Experience. Although always in demand as an artist, Blake loved mythology. Because of the philosophy of Swedish mystic Emanuel Swedenborg, this led to wild mental highs and lows, and later in life, he was claimed to be insane because of it. On his deathbed, he saw one last glorious vision, and the burst out in the singing of the things he saw in heaven. William Blake was born on November 28, 1757, in the Soho district of London, England. He only briefly attended school, being educated at home by his mother. The Bible greatly influenced Blake, and it would remain a lifetime source of inspiration, coloring his life and works with intense spirituality. At an early age, Blake began experiencing visions, and his friend and a journalist, Henry Crabb Robinson, wrote that Blake saw God's head appear in a window when Blake was only 4 years old. He also allegedly saw the prophet Ezekiel under a tree and had a vision of a tree filled with angels. Blake's visions would have had a lasting effect on his art and writings that he produced. As a young artist, Blake's artistic ability became evident in his youth, and by age 10, he was enrolled at Henry Parr's drawing school, where he sketched a human figure by copying from plaster casts of ancient statues. At age 14, he apprenticed with an engraver. Blake's master was an engraver to the London Society of Antiquaries, and Blake was sent to the Westminster Abbey to make drawings of tombs and monuments, where his lifelong love of Gothic art was seated. Also around this time, Blake began collecting prints of artists who had fallen out of vogue at the time, including Durer, Raphael, and Michelangelo. In the catalog for an exhibition of his own work in 1809, nearly 40 years later, in fact, Blake would lambast arts, who endeavor to raise up a style against Raphael, Michelangelo, and the antique. He also rejected 18th century literary trends, preferring the lesbians, Shakespeare, Johnson, and Spenser, and ancient ballads instead. In 1779, at age 21, William Blake finally completed his 7 years of apprenticeship and became a journeyman copy engraver, working on projects for print and book publishers. At this time, he began to prepare himself for his career as a painter. That very same year, he was admitted to the Royal Academy of Arts Schools of Design. There, he began exhibiting his own works in 1780. Blake's artistic urges branched out at this point. He privately published his poetical sketches, a collection of poems that he had written over the previous 14 years. In August 1782, Blake married Catherine Sophia Boucher, who was illiterate. Blake taught her how to read, write, draw, and color. He also helped her experience visions, as he did. Catherine believed despicably in her husband's visions and his genius, and supported him in everything he did. right up until his death 45 years later. One of the most traumatic events of William Blake's life occurred in 1787, when his beloved brother, Robert, died from tuberculosis at age 24. At the moment of Robert's death, Blake allegedly saw a spirit ascend through the ceiling, joyously. The moment which entered Blake's psyche greatly influenced his later poetry. The following year, Robert appeared to Blake in a vision, and presented him with a new method of printing his works, which Blake called illuminated printing. Once incorporated, this method allowed Blake to control every aspect of the production of his art. While Blake was an established engraver, he soon began receiving commissions to paint watercolors, and he painted scenes from the works of Milton, Dante, Shakespeare, and the Bible. During the final years of William Blake's life, he suffered from recurring bouts of undiagnosed disease that he called that sickness to which there is no name. He died on August 12, 1827, leaving unfinished watercolor illustrations to Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress and an illuminated manuscript of the Bible's book of Genesis. In death, as in life, Blake received short shrift from observers, and obituaries tended to underscore his personal idiosyncrasies at the expense of his artistic accomplishments. The Literary Chronicle, for example, described him as one of those ingenious persons whose eccentricities were still more remarkable than their professional abilities. Unappreciated in life, William Blake has since become a giant in literary and artistic circles, and his visionary approach to art and writing have not only spawned countless spellbound speculations about Blake, they have inspired a vast array of artists and writers. William Blake's The Tiger. The Tiger is not a simplistic poem, as it yields many interpretations. However, its strong, resonating rhyming drives the key concept in the reader's mind efficiency. William Blake's literary masterpiece, The Tiger, has been scrutinized from literal and metaphorical points of view as he revisits his perverted dilemmas of innocence versus experience. As per God and his creations are just beautiful and transcends the notions of good/evil, as is the case with his earlier poems. The Tiger gives no visible answers except offering more questions. The poem slowly and gradually leads to asking some troubling questions. The Tiger, in essence, is a poem where the poet asks the tiger about its creator and his traits. The poem is about God and the creator of our world. Each stanza poses a certain question with a vague subject in consideration. The poem largely questions the existence of God and its metaphysical attributes, referring to the tiger's multiple corporal characteristics as purely a piece of work. A poet wonders how Creator would have felt after completing his creation. How can he create a tiger, a fearsome beast, while also being the creator of the lamb?